And you see I'm really attached to this this cast shadow there on the left, because this is what it does here. If you remember, in the first session, I was talking about how the character has this main line that shoots up its costume, right? So that's why, like, I wanted the level of detail in the character to be in the lower part of the character to be very simple, and so that the eye kind of accelerates, you know, past all the, you know, the legs, the lower part, and sort of stops, you know, at the chest and head area. And the way we stopped it is by having a lot of little details, you know, a lot of intricate little details, these weird medals and accessories on the chest, the hair that has a lot of little points, you know, little tips here and there. So there's a lot of detail, and also value and color variety, a lot of value and color contrast up there to really accelerate the gaze towards that direction. And that's basically what I'm doing here. I'm using the shadow line to accelerate the gaze towards a cluster of detail here. Actually, it's better, it works better if I show you the, this here, the original version, which is what I used, of course, to do my little graphics. So basically, you see the shadow line kind of helps the eye sort of shoot past all that mass, that matter, and arrest itself on a bunch of intricate little details. And that's something I want to maybe mention now, because I have a bit of feedback to give you guys. So this is Marcel, this is Yurikos, this one is Giacomo, and the lower ones are compositions by color comps by Holly. So okay, what I want to maybe a bit of feedback that applies to what I was just mentioning in my own piece is this. Let me select the right brush. Basically, what I would like you to do a bit more than what you have already is organize clusters of detail. You know, now for example, Marcel, you have potentially, you know, different parts could be equally detailed. But what I think could be cool is if you have, of course, you know, the head as the most detailed place, the hand, of course, as well, and maybe this part here as well. And in between, you know, try to have a more straightforward composition. So for example, on the sleeve, if I were you, I would make more diagonal lines instead of all these lines that sort of keep the eye busy in that direction all the way to the hand. You have a very nice line here and here, and I think your folding lines, you know, could be a bit more diagonal and maybe less you know, less obvious, maybe just a little more subtle, so that our eye is not stopped too much on the way there. And that's the same for Yuri. I think you could, of course, have the focus on the head, the hand, and maybe a third part would be there, you know, like on the stones. And same for, of course, Giacomo. And I think you could have a nice, just like what I'm trying to do here, you know, there's like more detail on the foreground, more detail also on the head. But, you know, it's not all, like all the detail traveling, all this compositional travel of the eye, it doesn't rest only on the efforts of the character, you know, with the foreground and background being just there to support loosely and from the back, you know. What I'd like you to do is integrate more the background and foreground in your in this detail clusters, in the way you compose detail clusters. And for example, a way you could do that is by having, you see, a bit of cast shadow. Holly, I also took the liberty to add a bit of that to yours as well. Your color comp has already a nice like amount of small details everywhere. You know, and especially like a nice interaction between the background and these big shooting lines you have here, right? and the character. So that's pretty cool, I thought. But you could use a bit more interaction, a bit more, something interesting to see in the foreground as well. You see just a bit of cast shadow. I think like in Marcel, you can use that as well. Euricus, of course, you know, and Giacomo, you could repeat one of the background elements into your foreground as well, like a third sort of round shape. I think it could be cool. And that would be a way to captivate the eye in somewhere else than the character. It's a minor detail, of course. It's not, you know, of course your character is the main, is there to, you know, steal the show, right? But make sure you have something interesting to show in the foreground as well. And to go back to my piece, that's pretty much what I was trying to do here. Using the same rhythm as I have in the character. A shooting line and then a cluster of details. And basically, from there, it's going to be the same with the background, the midground, I mean, the building. So I'm going to show you basically the sort of line, like the line of thought that I followed. It's basically the same thing, right? It's a main line that shoots like past everything, and then a cluster of detail at the end. And if I show you the other clusters of details and my sort of final, you know, interaction, this is where it looks like. And I recommend you do something like this, you know, have something kind of interesting designed in the same fashion, you know, a shooting line and a cluster of details in the foreground with his head, and something in the background and something on the character, like a nice sort of like travel between three very different elements that are spaced differently as well. It doesn't always need to be, you know, two things in the foreground, one thing in the midground. It can be, you know, midground, foreground, background, several things in the midground. It's fine, you know. It's but it's just something that sort of travels between planes. And this is this sort of foreground, background love story, you know, teaser that I sort of did there in the promo of this session. But anyway, this is basically the what I meant by that.